Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about the meeting that could slowly kill the dollar. Two leaders, one very clear message. Just 5 days after the US President Donald Trump packed his bags and left Beijing, Russian President Vladimir Putin flew in and took the same seat. The back-to-back summit weren't an accident. They were a statement. Xi Jinping, China's president, welcomed Putin like a long-lost friend, calling him, his good old friend and declaring that China and Russia's relationships are at the highest level in history. Putin returned the praise, saying that, they had built a stable system of mutual trade protected from external influence. Translation, we don't need the West and we're building something to prove it. The two leaders wrap up their summit in May this year, signing a sweeping package of over 40 bilateral agreements covering trade, technology, education, nuclear security, railway development, and media. They also renewed their old 2001 Treaty of Friendship, giving their alliance official staying power for years to come. So, exactly in all of this stuff, in all this media and whatever is going on, the question remains is exactly what did they actually sign? Now, here's a quick breakdown of this, like the major areas that they talked about and where deals were actually signed. Now, number one, trade and economics, expanded bilateral commerce with frameworks designed to bypass Western financial systems. Energy, reaffirming cooperation on oil and natural gas, with China remaining Russia's top energy customer. Technology and AI, agreement on shared tech development, including artificial intelligence collaboration, and other things as well. I'm sure there's probably a weapons component, in there, given that Russia is currently at war with Ukraine. Other things that they discuss is railways and infrastructure, new deals on railway expansion, connecting Russia and China, also education and culture. Both leaders attended the opening of the China Russia Years of Education, nuclear security, cooperation framework on civilian nuclear energy, media and film, deals on joint film production and state media exchanges. Putin also extended a formal invitation for Xi to visit Russia in 2027, and both leaders confirmed they plan to attend the APEC summit in Shenzhen this November, an event Trump is also expected to attend. That set the stage for a potentially tense three-way encounter later this year. The big deal that didn't happen. Okay, so all this stuff here, technology, AI, all the things, it sounds good, it looks good, on TV. It makes them look very close. I mean, they were basically sending a very strong message to the West, not just the United States, but Europe as well, which deals were not actually signed. The headline Moscow wanted to walk away with was, a finalized contract for the power of Siberia too. That's exactly what they went there for. This is the big contract that Russia, they wanted to leave, and when they left China, they wanted to leave with that deal signed and ready to go. What that is this Siberia 2 pipeline is a massive 2,600-kilometer natural gas pipeline that would run from Russia's western Siberia through Mongolia and into China, eventually pumping 50 billion cubic meters of gas per year. Well, that's what Russia wanted, but it didn't happen. Russia desperately needs this deal. Since this war between Russia and Ukraine began in 2002, Moscow gas exports to Europe have cratered. There's been some reports that, I guess on paper it looks like Moscow is no longer exporting gas to Europe, but Europe is still buying Russian gas through third parties and also through intermediaries. So I think it looks on paper to save face. A lot of the European leaders are saying, "Oh no, we're not buying Russian gas. We're going to put sanctions on Russia," but they still buying Russian gas through third parties, the third countries, knowing that they're buying Russian gas. So, and they're also paying three times that amount as well. So, which is kind of crazy and ridiculous. But however, China is now the only buyer that is big enough to fill that void. So Russia signed a legally binding memorandum to advance the project back in September 2025 because Russia want to get this thing going. They are on board with this. They need this. They need this deal. But Talks stall over three key issues: price, financing, and delivery schedule. Now, what is the sticking points on all this? Why they couldn't come to an agreement, right? So, China reportedly wants to pay roughly half of what Russia was expecting. I mean, it's typical for the Chinese. They're not gonna pay. They're gonna. They know that they're holding all the cards. Beijing know this. Beijing knows that they're holding the cards. They know that Russia need them. That Russia need this deal, more than they actually need it, right? And so China right now they're like, listen, we can take our time. We're gonna give you half the price for this gas, or no deal at all. Russia wants a little bit more. China wants to pay half, and so that's why there's been this, this a little struggle there, and why they have not signed that, Siberia 2 pipeline. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov tried to put a positive swing, saying that the two sides have reached a general understanding on parameters, but no timeline, no price, and no contract. That's a diplomatic speak for we're still negotiating and it's going slowly, very slowly. The failed pipeline deal quietly reveals something important. This partnership, despite all the pageantry, it has limits, real limits. China isn't just going to go ahead and just give Russia a blank check. So, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the dollar dominance? Does it affect everyday Americans? Now, the problem with all of this is where things it start to get a little bit serious for us here in America, right? Russia Finance Minister Anton Siluanov, speaking at the 11th Russia-China Financial Dialogue in Beijing, confirmed that 99.1% of all trade between Russia and China is now conducted in rubles and yuan only, and not no dollars, no euros. Putin himself stated that practically all export and import operations between the two countries now use national currencies. Think about that. All right. Let that sink in for a second. In 2025, Russia and China bilateral trade totaled $227 billion, the third straight year above $200 billion. That's over $250 billion of global commerce now flowing entirely outside the US dollar system. To make things work technically, the People's Bank of China has activated currency swap agreements with Russia worth roughly about 150 billion yuan, about $20 billion US, while both countries are actively linking their interbank payment system to remove the need for dollar clearing banks. Russia has also resumed buying yuan for its national reserve fund since May of this year, shifting away from dollar denominated reserves. I mean, I don't blame Russia. You look at Europe and the United States, they stole their money. And that's what we do. We've done it to Iran. We've done it to every country that we don't agree with. If they are buying US Treasury bonds, we just take it. We just seize it from them and we don't give it back. So that kind of behavior is making countries look for alternatives. They don't want to buy US dollars. They don't want to buy US Treasury bonds, right? So the joint statement that was released after the summit between those two doubled down on their multipolar world vision, code for a global financial order where the US dollar is no longer the default currency for international trade. Now, what exactly is the biggest risk, right? Or the biggest threat to that hegemony, to that US dollar global dominance? This dollar story does not end with Russia and China bilateral trade. There's a broader pressure building. China has been steadily selling off US Treasury bond. In March 2026, China cuts its Treasury holdings to the lowest level since 2008. Meanwhile, the 30-year US Treasury yield hit 5.2%, the highest since 2007. As investors demand higher returns to hold American debt, when yields go up like that, it signals that confidence in US bonds. I did a video. I explained exactly what the bonds are. They're basically IOUs, as the world's safe asset is weakening. So I think a lot of countries are worried that we're so much in debt. We have so much debt that they don't believe that we can actually pay that debt off, and they also don't believe that we're solvent. And it's not just China. Experts told a U.S. Congressional Advisory Committee earlier this year that the biggest threat to the U.S. dollar's dominance might actually be Washington itself through overuse of economic sanctions and financial weaponization that pushes other countries to build alternatives. Now, Russia is not refusing to U.S. Russia did not want to stop using the U.S. dollar. I think we just cut them off. We say, hey, you can't use the dollar anymore to cause financial pain to in their country, and so they had to develop an alternative. We forced them to do that. We pushed them in that direction. Now, here's the plain truth: not a single meeting between Xi Jinping and Russia and Putin is going to kill the dollar. The U.S. dollar is still the world reserve currency. It is used roughly about 88% of all global foreign exchange transactions. The yuan and ruble are nowhere near replacing it on a global scale. But what China and Russia are doing isn't just symbolic anymore, it's structural. They are building the plumbing for a parallel financial system, linked payment networks, currency swap lines, trade settle in non dollar currencies, and mutual reserve strategies designed to withstand U.S. sanctions. Every deal signed in Beijing in May was another brick in that wall. For real estate investors, landlord, and everyday Americans, I would keep an eye out on the 10 and the 30-year Treasury yields. Watch the dollar index. If more countries follows, what China and Russia is doing, and believe me, these BRICS nations, they are actively watching exactly what's going on here with these two countries. The cost of borrowing in America could rise. Mortgages could get more expensive, and the purchasing power of your dollars could slowly erode, it is already eroding. Right? This is not a distant threat anymore. The construction crew is already on the job, and Beijing just handed them more tools. So that is going to be it for today, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this, simple meeting between Russia and China is going to go ahead and kill the U.S. dollar? How long do you think that's going to take? Do you think we have 5 years or 10 years, or is this something that we shouldn't be, maybe we shouldn't even worry about? So let me know what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you soon.